As I walked towards the bus stop, I was standing there. That's when it hit me. I'm living the big plan that God had for me from the moment my son was diagnosed. This child could not drive anywhere with us in a car because he was so overstimulated just by being around us. Now coordinating my trips with trains and buses, helping me, not taking on more stress, kept track on me all day through the text messages. This child I spent all waking hours trying to protect from danger and death. Jumping from balconies, stimming, screaming. He's now leading me, protecting me from danger. His concern for me, his empathy, his ability to lead as a man in the family. None of that would have been possible without God's intervention. And the reason why it took me so long was because of what I'm going to share with you in this podcast. How you can cut down the time for you to experience something similar and avoid standing in the way. If you are in a season of sadness, feeling like a slave, burned out, and summer season has allowed you to actually face the reality, and you're thinking, is this really it? Is there no more to life than this? If you're feeling overwhelmed this season, this summer, definitely the topic that we are covering today, it's relevant. Welcome to the Barefoot Autism Warriors podcast. I'm Ninka Bernadette Mauritzson, and my son lost all the symptoms that gave him the diagnosis in 2004. Stimming, sleepless nights, eloping, tantrums, rigidity, aggression, sensory issues, echolalia, and is now living independently without those symptoms. As a journalist and an ex-New Age autism mom saved by Jesus in 2020, I'm navigating all this, and I'm all about stopping moms just like yourself running on that hamster wheel of ineffective therapies, protocols, practitioners, deception and distractions in the mainstream and holistic world. So if less symptoms, more independence, more speech, peace, God and joy is your plan, you're in the right place. This is the first podcast episode that I am recording for you as a conversation between friends, but without me performing in front of a camera. And I have something to share with you that might be able to change your life. You have to hear what happened yesterday, especially if you're burned out. Especially if you feel like you cannot do more than you're already doing. If your child is screaming in the background, if it's a season for vacation, but you're witnessing all these moms read books, go on vacation, rest, play with their children. While you are not sleeping, you have your eyes on your child constantly, because if not, your child will elope into danger. Picky eating, stimming, screaming, it feels like you're surviving rather than living. That can be painful. I have been there, and I have something to share with you that happened literally yesterday that can change your perspective and give you hope. Now listen to this. Yesterday, I saw the results of God's long-term plan for me, and the reason why it has taken me 18 years to get there. I woke up in the morning, my recovered son, who no longer has any of the symptoms that gave him the diagnosis, brought me tea in bed. I had woken up without an alarm, and I was reading the Bible in bed, and I was just looking out the window in peace. This child that I spent all my waking hours trying to protect from danger, and honestly from death, jumping from balconies, stimming, screaming, so sensory damaged that he couldn't even take a shower. We couldn't cut his nails. We couldn't go for drives with him because he would elope. He would run in front of cars, jump in front of trains, only spoke in echolalia, sentences like a parrot, aggression, super picky with his eating. This child was bringing me tea in bed. He showed me, go to the description for this episode, and I'll leave a link to the website where you can see evidence, pictures, screenshots of the conversations that we had. He had planned a very difficult trip for me because I was so short on time that day, and I had to go and take over the house that God has worked on for a whole year, a tiny house where we're going to live simply and modestly and peacefully, and is part of the miracle that I'm going to share with you now. He had created the plan for the trains and the buses so that I could minimize travel time and that I could make it back on time. I just want to emphasize the child that could not drive anywhere with us in a car because he was so overstimulated just by being around us. He would escape the car if we did, so we had to separate the family into 2 units. The child who would jump in front of trains are now coordinating my trips with trains and buses. He kept track on me all day through text messages. His concern for me, his empathy, his ability to lead as a man in the family. None of that would have been possible without God's intervention. And the reason why it took me so long was because of what I'm going to share with you in this podcast. I'm going to share with you how you can cut down the time for you to experience something similar if that's what God has in store for you, and avoid standing in the way. As I walked towards the bus stop, I was standing there, traveling where my recovered son had told me to go. He's now leading me. He's protecting me from danger. He is empathically taking care of his mother the way that young men should take care of their mothers, which would have never been possible had we continued down the route that we were headed down when he was first diagnosed. As I'm standing there, listen to this, it's crazy. My son, who wasn't even supposed to be in the area that week, drives by 3 minutes before my bus arrives in his own car that he's bought from his own money with the work that he's doing, rolls down the window and sends me his love before going to work, which he found and he's excelling in, rather than being the sibling in the shadow of autism. I was driving through the landscape towards that tiny house that God provided when I lost everything. The house, my friends, money, safety, God showed me that I needed to do. Exit out of the new age, exit out of vanity and follow God. I was driving towards that tiny house. If you are in a season of sadness because you're feeling like a slave, you're burned out, this summer season has allowed you to actually face the reality and the consequences of the choices that you've made and didn't make in life. And you're thinking, is this really it? Is there no more to life than this? Is this what it's going to be like for me to be a mother for my children? Is this going to be the stressful life for the siblings? Is this really my husband? Do I want to be with this man? If your life feels painful, I have been there. And I want to tell you how to understand why this is happening and why what has worked for you so far is not going to take you to peace and it's not going to reveal God's plan. And I want to show you what can. I've been through a lot of different seasons in the turnaround process for my child. And since this is the season for summer, it is high peak season for divorce. It is peak season for destroying your body because you want to escape from reality and the pain that you are sitting in. it is peak season for an exacerbation of your child's symptoms because of epigenetic and environmental changes and because of your stress and the lack of understanding of what's really causing symptoms. And I know what it feels like to just desperately want to find a solution. I was someone who could just work nonstop. I would travel the world literally to research and do tests and understand and learn from experts. I could facilitate these recovery processes for my child and work and provide money for the family and be a full-time researcher. If I didn't have enough time in the day, I would just research at night. I had a career on the side. I was a bodyguard for my child because he would constantly be in danger, so my eyes on him like a laser beam. I was also cooking, cleaning, completely OCD about that. So I was someone who could do it all, and I have done that for decades. And it was like being a head on a stick, completely detached from my body. At the end of that, I suffered a burnout so severe that I could not move. I couldn't get up from the sofa. I was paralyzed by my own overperformance, my perfectionism, my fear of the future. I was so afraid that if I died, nobody could take care of my child. That if I didn't fix his symptoms, he would either be institutionalized or depending on someone else, and I could not let that happen. At the time when I collapsed from the research and from helping my child and trying to talk to other people about helping their children, just helping, being a doormat, being a pleaser, being an overperformer, I had literally no hormones in my body. All my levels were tanked. When I had these thoughts, is this really it? Is there no more? Is there no more to life than this? Is this what life is going to be? Is this my husband? What did I do? What have I done? And blaming myself as well. The mistakes that I made back then was I blamed my husband. I fantasized about escaping from this world, from the marriage. I did more and more and more to look for the next big thing, the next way out, the next escape, the next supplement, the next test, the next diet. I had more knowledge than doctors. And I had so much indignation and protest within me that I had every argument that could just destroy anyone when it comes to why it was so horrible what was done to these children and why this shouldn't have happened to us. What I did not have, though, is peace. I had zero understanding of God's full plan. I could only see the current moment. I did not understand that God had a long-term plan for my life. I had no patience. I had zero rest. I had no connection to my heart or my body and no ability to reflect. And why was that a problem? And if this is you, if you are someone who can do anything, but you feel like it's not what this season is calling for, it's not what you want to do, if you feel into your nervous system, and if you tune in to God's plan for you and your heart, even if you don't know God yet, even if you're disappointed with God, there's this sensation, this feeling, this message, this whisper that this got to change, something's got to change. Here's what the problem is with being someone who's hyper intelligent, super ambitious, driven like you and I, is that treating symptoms and trying to escape from your marriage and blaming your partner and being frustrated that you don't have what other so-called normal moms have, is that these symptoms are messengers. Trying to escape the sorrow and the trials that God is taking you through right now defies the purpose, and I didn't understand that either. the sorrow, the grief, the pain, the tension is where you receive your new self, is where God reveals His plan for you. It is where He gives you direction. Now listen to this. I was reading in my devotional today, and this was a message in John 12:27, where Jesus says, "Now my soul is troubled. What should I say? Father, save me from this hour." He's on the cross as he's saying this, actually. "But that is why I came to this hour. Father, glorify your name." When we go through suffering, what actually helps us is not to want it to go away or try to escape from it, but to be taken through it and to allow God to reveal His plan. And there are some things that we miss in that equation that I want you to understand. If we want to receive peace and healing for our children and the miracles that I am experiencing with my child, I'll tell you why I'm in this peaceful place with my child who's independent, and I now can let go. I have zero worry about his future. It is so important for you to understand that you won't get that plan revealed to you in success. Because when you're successful, you lose your head. You become prideful. You rely on your own understanding. And in general, when we are successful, we are not humble and we really don't have any patience for others. When I was super successful, multimillionaire, all the things worked for me and I was just performing, and I had zero patience for others and I had zero humbleness. And even in monotony, when things are just mundane, we don't receive our new self. We don't get the plans revealed from God, because when we're in monotony, which you are in probably sometimes, we tend to complain. Suffering, none of us like suffering, but we can develop a real love for what suffering does to us. It generally brings us to our knees so that we are able to let go of all the things that keep us from God, keeps us in the world. The purpose of suffering is to make you nourishment for other people. That's what the devotional said today, literally. The purpose of suffering is to make you nourishment for other people. Someone who's been through the fire of suffering is someone you go to in times of trouble. When I read this, I was so grateful for the many years of suffering that I have been through as I was walking through this with my child. It has taken me 18 years to get here, where my child is completely independent, where I have freedom and independence, and where I have joy in all circumstances, and where the dream is revealed and God has provided in all areas of my life. My ability to be nourishment for other autism moms now has been shaped through that suffering. And as we're talking about this, I want to mention that I am opening up for a season of supporting a new group of moms through this process. And if you're curious about my method and how I have implemented this, the biblical approach and the faith-based approach, to all the 18 years of learning through suffering, so that I can be nourishment to you and provide a path for you where you can find peace, rather than doing this from overperformance, where you don't want to escape from your life, but you learn how to be so joyful and grateful in the exact circumstance that you're in now. I want you to go to barefootautismwarriors.com and look at the program and apply to be part of that group. Now back to what happens that prolongs the suffering in your life. This is a spiritual battle between good and evil, between distractions and being on track with God in your walk through life with yourself, with God and others. So the enemy and the distractions is all about destroying your family, destroying your marriage, destroying your child, and destroying your health. When you are tested and God wants to show you his plan for you, you are also tempted. And the temptation will always be towards the world and towards carnality and towards your flesh. So it will feel like you are a slave to this world. You have to perform to earn your right to be here. You have to be a perfectionist to save your child. You have to rely on your own understanding. And it looks like you're super preoccupied with other people's opinions about you, or wanting what so-called normal moms have. You are a slave to other people's directions or stimulants or distractions, Facebook, Instagram, food, coffee, whatever it is. And when you have these wounds that many of us have, where we grow up without a safe holding space to process difficult emotions because our parents didn't have the capacity to sit with us through that. They didn't love us the way that God loves us. We grow up in pain and disconnect because we learned that feelings were not safe, so we needed to fight them. That our parents couldn't hold us through uncomfortable emotions, so we disconnected from emotions and uncomfortable feelings and processes and sensations. And you're probably disconnected to this day. What are some signs of disconnect in your life? And a low tolerance developed from that, a low tolerance to discomfortable situations that's actually keeping you in this loop of maintaining something really familiar, disconnected from the body in which God can speak about where he wants you, can talk to you about what's good for you and what's not good for you through intuition. That is God within you when you have the Holy Spirit within you. Some of the signs of that is immune problems, gut issues, hormonal issues, problems with detoxification, tiptoe walking, and behavioral issues in your child because your child mimics your nervous system, shallow breathing, elevated cortisol levels, which causes these immune problems as well. And the children in our lives mimic that, copies that, which means that if you are not understanding how your trauma responses and your wounds are now currently being used by the enemy to distract you, and how you can understand how God is using your wounds to direct you and heal you, you can be in this loop for decades, like I was. So the enemy, the accuser, the deceiver, he is the ruler of confusion. He will use your trauma wounds as entry points to deceive you and tempt you to seek solutions in the world, to perform, to be a slave to the world, to be a slave to food, to be a slave to practitioners, to be a slave to your self-hate and self-loathing. While the enemy uses wounds from the past and your trauma for distractions and to install fear and anxiety and overall despair without providing real tools for you to actually solve these problems. God is using your wounds, and these wounds that are caused by the fact that your heart knows how you're supposed to be loved. And it hurts a lot to have that God-shaped hole in your heart because your heart knows that you are loved by God unconditionally. And being around parents that don't love that way is extremely painful. So God uses these wounds to reconnect you to him, to shape you, to change you, to move you around, to force you on your knees so that you will let go of the things that are currently preventing you from listening to him and from understanding his long-term plan. The enemy is all about lies, and God is all about the truth in his word. I have spent decades before that being in the world a lot, gathering a lot of information, yes, about nutrition, about lifestyle, about epigenetic, working with the best experts to become an expert in teaching you to become an expert in that. But the spiritual path of that, I was so distracted by New Age thinking back then. And I wasted a lot of time on that. Whereas coming to God's pure spiritual path through the Bible, through being saved, through Jesus, allowed me to become nourishment for those who are suffering, autism moms who are suffering right now with burnout, confused about diets, confused about practitioners and tests, doing all the things in the hamster wheel of healing, which is the enemy's distraction, by the way, too, not getting anywhere. So I feel that the many suffering paths and sidetracks has provided me with the understanding and the care that I have for moms, to be nourishment for moms who are just starting out, consumed by symptoms and can't see their way out of this. I am not your guru. I'm not here to give you messages from God, but my suffering has been used. Through trauma, I've become an expert in helping moms with trauma healing. Through hardships and vanity, I have become an expert in helping moms become humble and find peace. Through breast cancer and autism and divorce and being deceived into the New Age darkness, I have become an expert in nourishing moms and caring for moms who are still in the darkness or deceived either in religion or false teachings or New Age practices. Because I've been in the darkness and I've seen how deceptive it is and how tempting it is, so that I can help you understand when you're off track and on track. By being saved at my lowest point, by spending 18 years in the suffering in the dark valleys, I am now able to cut down that transition time by leading with God first, truth first, Bible first, and a true understanding of the roadmap that we need to avoid distractions, a true understanding on how to heal trauma and self-sabotage patterns and trauma mechanisms, because they can work as an entry point for the enemy, or they can work as an entry point for God's messages for you. For me, it took 18 years to understand that if we try to escape from symptoms that are messages, we will not receive the message. We're not present in our body, present in our lives. We're not present with God when we try to escape from our pain and grief and trauma mechanisms, because we're so detached. And if we're not present, we won't be able to receive the present. We won't be able to receive the message if we are not at home, if we are not present. And that's something that I've developed a skill for facilitating for other moms throughout these years. So that you understand what is the plan, what's the message, and what needs to change here, so that you can understand God's plan. Number 2 is to adapt your environment and the strategy to match God's design and His word and truth in the Bible. We are going to match neuroscience, line it up with trauma healing and psychoimmunology and psychogastroenterology, all the things that combine brain science, trauma healing, and nutritional insights and biblical truths to get you the roadmap that you have been looking for everywhere, and to turn you into the expert that you have been looking for, because you cannot find it until you understand what God's plan is for you. God has designed the perfect state in your body and in your life for peace and healing. And when we reconnect to that, things fall into place. Number 3, we're spending a lot of time doing emotional and physical healing, because your trauma and your physical healing is what prevents your child from changing. And it also often prevents you from being able to listen to God because of trauma wounds and your past. We are doing that with specific tools that put you into a position where you can be at peace and present in the body, so that you can go back and revisit those difficult feelings and emotions without wallowing in them, and being open to letting God be with you and walk you through it and take you through this season, and understand what it feels like when He's revealing His plan compared to when the enemy is trying to distract you. We're doing that with hands-on support and deep healing in a super supportive community and coaching. Then we're changing the environment, because you can't change in the same environment that got you into trouble. Finally, we're combining it with the cutting-edge bio-individual nutritional approach, where you learn how to tailor your child's diet, supplements, and testing based on the feedback that you get from the body. So this is about methylation, it's about infection supplements, it's about tests, where I have sat down with the best practitioners that I have worked with throughout these years to force them to teach you this mom-led approach, where you become the biomedical expert. You know what to ask a practitioner if you choose to work with one, but most moms, when they get to this point, actually don't need the biomedical intervention. If they do, they know exactly what works, what triggers symptoms, what to do about them, and what doesn't work. It's a spiritual journey, it's a biblical journey, it's a neuroscientific journey, it's an existential journey, it's an emotional journey, it's a biological journey, and that's what makes it so complicated. I am so grateful for the many years of suffering that has shaped, changed, moved, educated me so that I can provide nourishment for moms, ambitious, intelligent, overwhelmed moms who want to be supported and held through the process that took me 18 years in 12 to 24 months. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I am here to teach you how to fall in love with your life, fall in love with the Word, fall in love with peace, learn how to live a life where you can actually read books instead of monitoring your child 24/7, where you can imagine your child independent and have less symptoms, and at least you will have all the tools to turn every stone to get your child to the best possible outcome, because you have done everything within your authority and you're surrendering everything to God as well. If you want me to audit your approach, want to talk to me, go to barefootautismwarriors.com. I love communicating with you. Send me an email, contact@barefootautismwarriors.com, or go and check out program at the website barefootautismwarriors.com, or the description for the podcast wherever you're listening to this, and I'll send you the proof of the miracles that God showed me for the long-term plan yesterday, to give you some hope, as well as some case studies from moms that I'm working with currently in this container. May God bless us all, and thank you so much for listening.